Well, didn't plan on it, but yesterday took a second 0 in Port Angeles because I had a video to make, I had a blog to write, I had my journals to put out, some photos to edit, all this stuff, right? And as the day kept getting later and later, I kept pushing back the time when we leave. And finally Dottie's like, well, we should just stay another night. I'm like, you're right. And then this morning, wanted to make up for lost time by going straight to the trail and hiking as hard as we could for the whole day. So we haven't had any big fat breaks, but we have been pushing pretty hard on some pretty cruisy terrain ever since the road walk in to come back into the Olympic National Park. So we've been through different areas, saw waterfalls, flowers, some shelters along the way. Definitely more people on these trails. It's really neat hunting or a fishing cabin back there that's right where they originally built it, and there's a lot more history on this side of the park, I guess. But we're pushing a pretty stout pace to try and get 20 miles under our feet, maybe just to make up for the time that we lost, or because we know that tomorrow, the next day, maybe the next day after that, we're going to be severely impeded by the snow up in the high country. So we have to average a little over 15 miles per day to make it to Port Townsend with just enough food, or a little more than that if we want to make it there with a little extra food. So we'll see. We're stopping here pretty soon for the night. Gonna build the tent, cook some food, and then get up first thing in the morning, do it all again tomorrow. Had to do was the line was too much. It's enough to hold the weight, but it was too much to pull on it to pull the weight up. So it can hold it if it's just sitting there, but when I pulled on it, the line broke. So Dottie's idea was to stand under this guy with a stick, push it up with the stick, tie it off, and then let the stick go, and it worked. It's noon. We've been at this for a while. It's an 8 miles long climb up and up and up and up and up to get to Hayden Pass. With 6 days of food, water, snow gear, it's a pretty heavy pack, so we're both feeling a little worn down right now. So we're going to take some dirt naps, which is exactly what it sounds like. Only got a few months to make a lot of miles, so walking this trail is like reading a book one page at a time, where you're not allowed to turn the page back. And this is the page we're about to turn, because once we go over that pass right there, we're never going to see this valley again, at least not on this journey. Tony definitely disappointed me on this section. We took a 00 in Port Angeles, and I thought he would come out here and break the trail for us while we were lazing in town, but he didn't. I had to break the trail by kicking in steps and using my ice axe as a cane. Dotti followed closely behind me. We had to get to a good spot in the trail where we could glissade down. Basically a straight track beneath us where gravity could do the work and there weren't visible holes, rocks, or ice or snow bridges in the way. There's a stream, right? Flowing, waterfall. We got snow cover, snow cover, snow cover. There's the creek right lets out on the other side. So all this snow that the water is running under is hollow. It's a snow bridge. You fall right through that sucker. So we're gonna cross on solid ground instead of falling through. I said it was solid ground, but I didn't say it was dry. At least going this way and getting up to our ankles or even higher in the freezing cold creek water, guaranteed we wouldn't fall through and get washed away under a bridge of snow. You can see two areas here where melting snow has formed a somewhat bridge over the flowing creek. And if you fell into it, I hate to think what would happen to you on the other side. That's why we tried to stick to the solid ground. The snow was already under the mountain on the other side of Hayden Pass by the time we came to a camp, cooked dinner, and got into the tent for the night. Days like this, slow days where there's obstacles like snow in the way, I was glad to have the extra food. It's quite a steep climb to start the morning. We're taking an alternate that's hopefully going to avoid some of the snow. You can see there's plenty of it. That last one was the first pass, Lost Pass it was called. And then this pig is Cameron Pass, and that's what we're about to climb right now. I'm listening to Carol Wojtyła's biography on audiobook right now, and although he was a really busy man and did a lot with his life, he always made time for the mountains, especially hiking, skiing, and kayaking. I wondered what he would think of these mountains in Washington compared to his native Poland. This glissade was pretty scary. Steep, bumpy, rocks on both sides. It was more technical, but it was the last one that we'll be doing. So it makes sense to save the hardest one for last. Although I was getting absolutely rocked in all of these craters all the way down the side of the mountain. Imagine driving across a rumble strip, but it's wet, cold, and you're driving with your butt. It was steep, but doing it this way was a lot more efficient than the hiking alternative. I grew up around snow and I've done more hiking in it, but this was Dottie's first time, so she definitely took a cautious pace. I don't blame her for it. But as it turned out, we didn't make as many miles on these days when we were crossing snow, so we had to make up for them in the days that followed. The official route took us over two more pretty high passes with exposure and snow. We avoided these by adding on extra miles and staying in the valley, doing one less pass than the official route. I hiked ahead and planned to sit down at a campsite and meet Dotti when she got there, but things didn't turn out that way. The trail on this alternate is not maintained, which is fine because we're off the snow, but now we have to contend with losing the trail. And I lost the trail once, and I missed the bridge across the Grey Wolf River and stayed on the wrong side of it. I was lost. I followed the old trail, which turned into a game trail, which turned into a bushwhack, and here's me recording a video from the bushwhack. My main problem is that I lost Dotti. Somewhere along the line, when I was over in the bushwhack, she went on the correct side of the river, past me, before I could find her and tell her I'd gotten lost. It was a pretty rough bushwhack to get out of there. A lot of things with thorns on them and stuff, but eventually I came down to the river and there was a trail, but I was bushwhacking for probably an hour or more. In the meantime, when I was on the wrong side of the river, Dotti passed me, but I didn't know that. So here I'm trying to make a decision whether to wait for her at the shelter because she's still coming from behind, or to drop my pack and run forward and try and catch her. It's going to be dark probably in 30 minutes. I have no idea which. I don't know. I stopped and waited for her for a long time, twice, so honestly she might have passed me, and if that's the case, I have no idea how far she got. Dotti had gotten to the shelter earlier in the evening, thought something was wrong because I wasn't there, hiked for 2 more miles looking for me, and then turned around and came back. I was running north on the trail. She was walking south. Trail as fast as I could. Thank God I found her. I dropped my pack at the shelter so that I could run faster and caught her. Now I'm coming back for my pack. I didn't handle it well.
I resented having the responsibility of looking after her instead of admitting that I was the one that took the wrong turn, and I apologized to her after I realized my mistake.
Till late morning after last night's late finish, and I let Dotti go ahead and take the lead because then she could catch all the spider webs on the trail. But the problem is I'm a head taller than her, so all the spider webs are going directly into my face because she's only clearing out the ones that are like up to here. Nobody's winning. We're both getting webbed.
The mistakes of the following day came hard and fast. We got to the Grey Wolf River and the trail abruptly ended. It looked like it continued on the other side, but there was no bridge. There was also no way to ford the river with how high the water is with all the snow melt. We tried bushwhacking for a little bit to bypass it, but with how thick all that brush was, it would have taken us a month. I tried to Tom Sawyer a bridge across the river by pushing fallen trees that we could walk across, but only ended up hurting my back a little bit, so we ended up just backtracking and then taking an extra 9 miles onto the day to get around the bridge that had been washed out. When we left Port Angeles, we didn't know that we would come this way. Otherwise, I would have researched the route. The bridge has been out for a while. It's not like this was a surprise, but it was for us because we didn't know we were going to come this way until this morning. We backtracked to a longer trail, found a bridge across the river, and continued on our way, grateful for the extra food in our pack to accommodate inconveniences like this.
I remember around high school age, I was obsessed with The Walking Dead. And I'd go up and watch like an episode every night, and they always were just bashing through the woods to get somewhere, and somewhere out in Georgia, right? And it's just these like thick woods, and that's pretty much what we're going through right now. This used to be a road, so we can kind of cut through here, but that was the kind of stuff we went through to get to the road. All this to avoid the snow and the climbing in the snow further up in the high country. So it is more miles to come down here because we had to backtrack where that bridge washed out and go around, and then we're coming back up. It's more miles, but it is safer to go this way. We didn't have that information that the bridge was closed because we decided to do this route once we were out here.
While we were still busy learning from the mistakes of yesterday, we started making brand new mistakes today. Yesterday, I got lost and we ended up separated. Today, we went down a trail not knowing what we were going to meet on the other end. In spite of the extra day or so that it added onto our trip, I think it was worth it to avoid all the snow up in the passes. But one thing you'll never fail to avoid is opportunities to fail and learn, which we've had plenty of just in this 1 week.
Morning. It's freezing, but we have an 800-foot climb followed by a 1,000-foot climb. And then in 2.6 miles, we'll be back on the official course of the Pacific Northwest Trail. So I think the freezing cold is a good way to get hiking fast. So that's what we're doing.
Dotti! Oh my gosh. Stop.
So all day I've been eating like meat sticks, bars. The meat sticks have been my favorite because they're salt and protein. And I've been sweating a lot, so I need the salt. And then for lunch I had refried beans. This package says that it's 5 servings, but I ate the whole thing, and then a peanut butter bar for dessert. But I'm still going to be hungry. And every day that I'm out here, I get more and more hungry, even though I eat more and more food. Mount Zion on the Olympic Peninsula in Washington. Look at all this beautiful fog. Very scenic, very foggy. Very good. How cool is this? Maybe not a great view from the top of the mountain, but walking through the fog up here on the ridge line, pretty nice. Nice and cool, especially after that big climb. I'm gonna stop at the overlook, have myself a pot of coffee, and then it's pretty much a slow downhill all the way to the road walking to Port Townsend. I went over the top of the ridge, and this side's not so bad.
Highly visible areas like this, people keep picked up pretty well. But once they get down into the forest where they think nobody's watching, it's a different story.
I really don't get why people come out here to dump stuff like this. You know, I really don't have the space in my backpack to pack out all the trash, but look, they shot it with a bullet, and then they left it out here, and there's a pile of trash down there too. And then the place we stayed last night, somebody drove their truck into the woods, and emptied a load of carpet. You know, how much would it have been to take it to the dump or even burn it, you know, get rid of it? You know, I know you're not supposed to burn carpet, but you're not supposed to dump it in a national forest either. I wouldn't say it ruins my experience as part of it, but come on, guys. Come on. That's a stump of the kind of trees that used to be here. That's the kind of trees that are here now, so that's how you know it's a newer growth forest. These new growth trees are kind of the story this forest is telling now, since the old growth was cut out years and years ago. It just got ripe, maybe just today. And after all the processed food or dehydrated food, not a bad option, scavenging something fresh. Look at this, nothing in any direction, nothing. Oh, porta potty. Get in there, fancy pooper.
Toilet paper in there too.
And there's toilet paper. Yeah, we forgot to pack out toilet paper, so it's been a moss kind of week. Fancy, Dotti. And you locked the door? There's nobody here. Better than moss.
Once off the public lands, out of the national forest, and back onto a county road, we were really limited with our options for camping. The tree was lined with no trespassing signs nailed to the trees. On our left was a forest of conifers, and on our right, hardwoods. We found a spot down near the river without a no trespassing sign that was pretty boggy, but since nobody else was using it and it didn't seem like it was private land, it was ours for the night.
Yeah, we had to hitchhike into town to make it there on time for church, but man, what a welcoming church. I met this guy, like we chatted for a while, and when we were saying goodbye, I was like, hey, do you don't know anyone in the area who would lend me a bike, do you? And he has a road bike. And he lent it to me so that I could connect my footsteps from where we started hitching this morning all the way to Port Townsend. And I'm not walking the whole way, but at least I'm pedaling, and I'm happy with that. There's traffic. Should go without saying that my legs hurt. It's uphill a lot of the way to town, but doing it. I'm off the highway. I'm still on the official route of the PNT, but there are bicycles allowed back here. It's a non-motorized path, so I don't have to look over my shoulder the whole time. Patrick lent me his bike. I just hid it in the courtyard of the Catholic church where I had stashed my backpack. Backpack retrieved, bike is stashed. Now we're walking downtown to grab another day's worth of food and then a ferry ticket to get the other side of Puget Sound. The guy who lent me the bike said he had a friend on Whidbey Island. That's where the ferry took us. I said sure, and he put me in touch with him. Turns out this guy has this big property opening up onto some parkland, and he let us set up a tent, camp in the backyard, and even take a hot shower. If the people I meet in the miles ahead are anything like the people that have taken care of me so far, then I'm definitely in good hands. This summer, I'm on the biggest journey of my life, from Cape Alava, Washington, all the way to Key West, Florida. I'm hiking all the way to the Rocky Mountains and then the Jefferson River, and then I'm paddling the Jefferson, Missouri, and Mississippi rivers all the way to the Gulf, and then bicycling all the way around the Gulf states to Key West. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for sharing with a friend. But if you're watching on Substack, thank you so much for supporting me and helping me along my way. If you'd like to be the first to see this content instead of watching it a week late on YouTube, head over to my Substack and become a paying member to receive content as soon as it comes out. Thank you.